Hello and good morning, MYM Insiders. How's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw, and we are here for our tactical marketing webinar. We're going to be talking about pay-per-click advertising today. This is always an interesting topic. And my goal today is to give you some, hope that you can actually do this and pull it off. I mean, like it said in the introduction or the overview text for this, pay-per-click advertising is like lost love. Everybody has a story, and all of the stories are sad. And I don't think it has to be sad. Pay-per-click advertising is something that takes a little bit of know-how, takes a little bit of doing. And, you know, I remember back to the early days of pay-per-click advertising, and we would try. This is before we knew anything about it. And so we'd log into AdWords, and we'd try to figure out the keywords, and we'd run campaigns, and we'd show up high on the campaigns, and we'd get excited, and then the next day we'd drop out of sight and couldn't figure out why, and it's just very confusing. And you know what? This is one of those things that really is difficult to learn how to do yourself. Okay, so I'm going to give you some options. My goal here today is not to teach you all the ins and outs of how to do it and how it works and how to manage AdWords and all those kinds of things. I don't think it's something that you really need to aspire to learn yourself. Now, if you're the kind of person that already has that sort of understanding, then fantastic. You probably don't need this webinar anyway. But if you're the kind of person that's thinking, you know, I'm interested in this, we've either used it before and it hasn't worked, or we haven't used it before but we're interested, the point of this webinar today is really just to sell you on the concept of pay-per-click is worthwhile, and in the right hands it can work for you. It is not designed to show you all the little details of here's everything you need to know. Now, that being said, we are going to cover the details, but from a lot higher vantage point, where you're going to be shown what the details are, but not necessarily how to get in there and actually make them work, okay? So if we were trying to compare what we're going to do today to remodeling, let's say remodeling a bathroom, and you see a TV show about remodeling a bathroom, it's going to be more like the 30-minute show where they say, okay, here's what you do, and they show you kind of the stuff that you need to do. You need to pull the old stuff out, and you need to get the flooring up, and you need to prepare the bathroom area. Then you need to bring in the materials, and you need to put them in, and you're going to kind of see what to do and sort of how to do it, but I'm not going to show you the nitty-gritty details of, okay, now here's exactly how you lay the tile. Here's how you mix the grout to the proper consistency. Here's how you spread it out first. I'm not going to show you those details. And the reason is this. In my experience, this is one of those things that's actually more dangerous for you to try it on your own, because the likelihood of failure is high, than it is to simply have someone do it for you professionally. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of options, and you know, you can kind of run with that and do what you want. Okay, so with that introduction, and sort of a weird introduction, I acknowledge that, but hey, it is what it is. Let me kind of get going here. Let's talk about this topic. The overall topic is called search marketing. That's a generic term that encompasses pay-per-click and search engine optimization. So the first thing you need to know is that there's traffic on the web. It's there. You just have to tap into it. And you know, I'll talk about reasons for failure in a little bit, but I'll tell you this. Like I said earlier, a lot of people have failed at pay-per-click advertising, and what they generally tend to do is they tend to blame it on the internet, or it just doesn't work. And I like to use the analogy of it's a story from my brother-in-law, and I think I told this same story yesterday on a different webinar. But here's how it works, okay? So I've got a brother-in-law. His name's Jared, and he grew up in Utah. And ever since the time he was a little boy, his dad would take him out fly fishing on the rivers and streams up in the mountains in Utah. And he got very, very good at fly fishing. Now, the funny thing is he hates to eat fish, and he never keeps a single thing that he catches, but he loves the process on the river and fly fishing. It's one of his favorite things, and he's really, really good at it. Well, a few years ago, he moved down here to Texas. And when he got down here to Texas, there's nowhere to fly fish because we've got muddy bottom rivers like the Brazos that, I mean, it's just awful. There's no, you can't fly fish in it. So after I'd been here a couple of years, I found out about this place in southeast Oklahoma called Broken Bow Lake, and it has a river coming off it called the Lower Mountain Fork River. And this river is a rock bottom river, and the water coming out of it is really cold because it comes off the bottom of that lake. And sure enough, there's a ton of trout in that thing, and it is a beautiful, pretty deep, pretty big river, not super fast moving, but it's a nice river, and you can fly fish in that thing. So I told my brother Jared about it, my brother-in-law Jared about it, and he went out there with his brother, who also grew up fly fishing, and he took my son Sam. Now my son Sam at the time was about 16 or 17 years old. He wasn't into fly fishing, but he just tagged along because he wanted to go and kind of see what's happening. And here's what my son told me. He said it was the most amazing thing. When they got out there on the river, Jared and his brother Casey, they would cast their lines, and about every cast or two they would catch a fish, and they started reeling them in just like crazy. It was like the river was overstocked somehow, and these guys were pulling them in. And I later asked Jared. He said they pulled in, he thought, somewhere between 50 and 70 fish between the two of them in an hour. Well, as they did this, they started seeing other fishermen all along different parts of the banks of the river, started seeing them pull all these fish in, and started sort of getting closer and closer and closer until finally they were right up there, right in their area where they were fishing. And of course, Jared, thought the heck with this, so him and Casey and Sam packed up their stuff, and they went to a different spot on the river where they proceeded to pull out another 50, 60, 70 fish an hour. And the reason, of course, is because they know what they're doing. And there's a lot of different things that you need to know about fly fishing. I don't know a single thing about fly fishing, but a lot of it has to do with the fly that you use. A lot of it has to do with the type of place on the river, what kinds of features are in the river at the particular spot. A lot of it has to do with how you handle the equipment. And there's multiple things that go into being an expert fisherman, and Jared and his brother fit that bill, while many of the others did not. Now, here's why I'm telling you a story about fishing, because it's very germane to this topic of pay-per-click advertising. It's very easy for you to sit on the side with your pole catching nothing and wasting time, or in your case, wasting money, and thinking, wow, this thing just doesn't work. But meanwhile, I promise you, Jared and Casey are along the banks right up the river from you, catching those same prospects that you're trying to catch. While you're having no success, you're getting one or two nibbles. They're getting 50 or 60 an hour or a day or a week or a month or whatever the case is, and they're completely out fishing you. And it's not because the river's broken. It's not because the fish are broken. It's because you don't know what you're doing, okay? And it's easy to see in the fishing example that, yeah, somebody might not know what they're doing. Sam was out there with him, and he didn't catch anything because he didn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to place the flies and pull them. He just didn't know how to do it, okay? Poor coaching from me growing up, I guess, but we didn't ever live near rivers. We lived in Texas, so we didn't even know about this place. So I just want you to know that the river is there, the fish are there, you just got to know how to get them. And that's a fact, okay? This isn't an opinion. It's not a, well, maybe. It's a fact, and you can verify it by using tools that are available through Google, and I'll mention some of them, although I won't go into detail on how to use them. But you can verify this by seeing the traffic counts, okay? It's absolutely possible. So the first thing you want to do in search marketing is search engine optimization. We're not going to talk about that today, other than right now to just mention that it exists. You want your company to come up first on the page so people find you when they're searching for stuff. That takes time, that takes know-how, and that takes ongoing TLC also, okay? Second priority, though, is pay-per-click advertising. It's faster way to show up in search, costs more money, but you still have to have know-how. Now, one of the reasons that pay-per-click advertising is maddening to some people is that you can show up on the first page on the first day of using pay-per-click advertising. Okay, it's not that hard to do for people that know how to do it. Now, that's an interesting concept, because what happens is you show up on the first page, you don't get good results, and then you get really frustrated because you say, well, I was on the first page. So that's like standing on the bank of the river with your fly tied onto your line and putting it in the water and saying, well, my fly was in the river. Come on, why didn't it work? And the reason is there's lots of reasons, okay? So just by way of, easy to understand, when you Google something like this is Columbus, Ohio basement finishing, up here at the top are some paid search ads, pay-per-click ads. And over here on the side, these are also pay-per-click ads. Now, all the stuff down there on the left bottom that is not enclosed in a red square, that's the organic search results. Obviously, that's important. Obviously, that's something you want to aspire to and you want to figure out how to get to, but that's not the topic of today's webinar, okay? The topic of today's webinar is this stuff over here. So, question, what about this? I get this question a lot. Do I need to do SEO and pay-per-click? If I've got good rankings in search engine optimization, do I even need to bother with pay-per-click? And the answer is yes, you do, okay? First reason is visibility. When you show up on the paid search and natural or what's called organic search rank, when you show up on both sections, it increases your exposure and it's going to increase your traffic, okay? There's statistics, kind of depends on who you trust with your statistics, but the statistics that I've seen say that about 80% of all searches result in an organic click. In other words, a click on one of the organic search listings. Some people hear that and they get discouraged and they say, well, if most of the clicks are going to organic, then is it even worthwhile to be in the paid search? And that's really kind of a stupid objection if you think about it, because it's pay per click. You're only going to pay when you're clicked. So if you put your ad on there and nobody ever clicks it because they only ever click on natural organic search terms or search results, you'd never be charged any money, so it wouldn't even matter. I mean, it'd be kind of a waste of time, and you'd quickly figure that out, but to think that because people prefer to search and click on organic, that it's not worthwhile to do paid search really is an unsupportable hypothesis. It doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make any sense when you figure that if 80% of the searchers click on organic results, that still leaves 20%, and that's still a tremendous volume of search, okay? So don't think that. You want your visibility to be increased. You can create an impression that you're an established company, that you're more dominant, and that's hopefully true, but even if it's not true, if you can get good, you can get listed in both areas, that's going to create that impression. Also, you need to know that if you don't, your competitors will. Every time you don't show up in the search, your competitor is going to show up in the search, and that just hurts your ability to keep them out. And don't think for a second that your competitors will not use your name as a keyword, especially if you're a larger player. They definitely will. Okay, so if you're the #1 remodeling company in town, you can bet that your competitors are going to be using your company name as a search term. Okay, so if you don't show up, they're going to show up, and that's not going to be very helpful. All right, it's also going to allow you to share keyword data with yourself. Okay, so if you find keywords that work, okay, in pay-per-click, in paid search, you can then turn around and focus on those in your SEO work. So let me give you an example. If you find a particular search term in pay-per-click that's working, and maybe one that's a little bit more off the beaten path, maybe you find one for siding that says Alcoa vinyl, Alcoa aluminum siding. Maybe this is one of the search terms that shows up in your keyword research. We'll talk about keyword research in a little bit. And you see this, and you think, wow, okay, that's interesting. And so you start utilizing that for paid search to get traffic to your site. But you can also then think, okay, can we take and create an article or a blog posting that uses this term so that it'll show up in my organic search? So I highly recommend that. Now, the next bullet point here is really just the flip side of that same coin, okay? You can test keywords that you're thinking about using in SEO and see if they're worth it. So before you go out and start spending a lot of time and effort developing articles and blog postings and content that surround certain types of words, you can test it on pay-per-click, see if it works first. It's a relatively inexpensive way to find out what the marketplace is going to respond to. That's the great thing about pay-per-click, is that it's real-time testing of the marketplace. I don't know if you've ever heard of a book before called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. in that book, he talks a lot about pay-per-click advertising because he is espousing creating certain types of businesses that thrive very specifically off of pay-per-click advertising, certain types of product-oriented businesses. But here's an interesting anecdote that comes from his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. He was trying to sell his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, to a publisher. He had never been published before. He didn't have any experience in the publishing industry. And he wanted to find a title for his book that worked the best. So he came up with, I don't remember the detail of the anecdote, but it was a fairly large number of potential titles for his book. Now, he'd already written the book or was in the process of writing the book. I don't know exactly where he was at in that process, but he had this book, and he took roughly 20 different book titles, and he created pay-per-click ads on Google, and he simply sat back and watched which ones got clicked the most. And people went to a page, and it wasn't necessarily that he was trying to sell something when he got there. He just wanted to see which ones got the most clicks. And the one that got the most clicks by a long shot was The 4-Hour Workweek. And the subtitle of that was something like Live Anywhere. I can't remember what it was. Live Anywhere, do whatever you want, something like that. Anyway, it's a good way to test. That's the bottom line. That's the point I'm trying to make now about this keyword data, is that you can use it to find things that work, okay? And then you can utilize those in the rest of your website and other parts of your marketing. So with that said, let's talk about some of the reasons for failure of pay-per-click. Okay, first of all, it's confusing. And I alluded to this earlier when I said we first started out. When I say we, I mean me. This is going back years and years. I don't know how many years ago it was that pay-per-click came out, but gosh, it was a long time ago, 10 or 15 years, something like that. And we started trying to figure it out, and it was just very confusing, okay? So you got to understand keywords, you got to understand bidding, you got to understand ad writing, and it's hard. So this is a reason that people fail, is that they're just not doing it right. And we're going to discuss some of these issues a little bit later on this webinar, and we'll talk about keywords a little bit. And remember, per the beginning of this session, I said we're not going to go into detail, so I don't want you expecting that I'm going to show you exactly how to do the keyword research and the bidding and the ad writing. I'll cover it briefly, but I do want you to know that those things can be confusing. They're confusing enough to repeat myself, okay, that I recommend that you really don't attempt to learn them unless you're going to go all in and attempt to learn them. And this webinar is certainly not the venue where you're going to learn how to do that. You need to go to people that specialize in training on those specific issues, people like Perry Marshall and others. You can find them using search on the web. Not the scope of this webinar, but I do recommend that you utilize some other tools, and I'll talk about those as we get a little bit further. But here's the main reason that pay-per-click doesn't work, is because the landing page stinks. Now, let me make a clarification here. There are tools out there that allow you to run pay-per-click campaigns without having to really understand all the keywords, bidding, and ad writing. One of the programs that you can use, we'll talk about this again in just a moment, is called Reach Local. And this is the platform that we utilize here at Monopolize Your Marketplace. It's something that we recommend that you utilize with us, and we'll utilize it on your behalf. You can utilize Reach Local by yourself without Monopolize Your Marketplace, and there's negatives attached to that relative to doing it with Monopolize Your Marketplace. I'll cover those things in just a minute. But the point is this: if you use a tool like Reach Local, and there are others, but I'll focus on that word, Reach Local, for right now. If you utilize those tools, then you can overcome some of the confusing nature of the keywords, bidding, and ad writing, and you can get a campaign that works for you. But you still will fail if your landing page or your website stinks. And this is what we see over and over and over again, okay? Now, years ago when pay-per-click was first really becoming a tool of consequence, we recommended to our clients to create landing pages. And the reason we did this, quite honestly, was I'd like to use the word laziness, but it's really not laziness. It was lack of ability to do anything better. Now, some of you know the history of our company, and I'm not going to go into 20 years of history, but just to make a very quick point at a couple of specific and relevant things. For the longest time, we really were not a company that built websites. We would do it occasionally for clients that demanded it or really needed it, But usually we would just recommend that they go find somebody else to do it. We didn't write a lot of web content. We were mostly focused on being a training company and doing some very specific consulting for larger dollars for larger companies. So we just didn't have the wherewithal to really build websites for our clients in those days. So when they came to us and said we want to do pay-per-click advertising, we would recommend doing a landing page because it was easier to put together. It's just one page. I don't recommend landing pages. I don't think we've built a landing page in years. We've had a few clients that have insisted or said, hey, we need you to do this. We've done it a few times, I think, as a stopgap between now and when their website was going to be ready. What I recommend is that you do pay-per-click. You build a website that is awesome per the MYM type of style with identity and conversionability tools. And I'm not going to go into those in a lot of detail either because they've been covered elsewhere at length on different webinars and different pieces of information that I've given you. But I really don't recommend it. I remember there was one client in particular that came to us, and it was a rebath dealer. And the guy had the craziest website, internet strategy you can imagine. So here's what it was. He had his own website, and he had a pay-per-click campaign that he was feeding into it himself. On a national level, there was also a rebath campaign that was pushing pay-per-click into that website. Also, simultaneously, there was a national campaign by Corporate Rebath that was pushing leads via organic search into a different website. Meanwhile, he had hired a local Yellow Pages type company to create its own landing page for him that it was driving traffic to via pay-per-click. And so what would happen is when somebody would go search, they would see all these different ads for Rebath. They would see all these different ads that they could click on, both in organic and in paid search. But every time they'd click, they would come on a different website. And all of the websites were terrible. So instead of focusing all of the traffic into one fantastic landing spot on a website that worked, they were diffusing all of the traffic to different websites, all of which sucked, which made people quickly draw a conclusion. They said, wow, whatever Rebath is, I don't want it. And it was a failure. It was an abysmal failure. So I'm going to recommend that you create a website, that you create a really powerful identity-based, hot-button, evidence-based, social proof-based type of a website with all the conversionability tools that we talk about here at Monopolize Your Marketplace. And I'm going to recommend that you focus your pay-per-click to go to those pages, okay? Now, here's some of the common things that people do. First thing, keyword landing page disconnect. In other words, the keyword says one thing, but the page they go on leads to a different topic. I'll show you an example of this in a minute. Over-reliance on engagement tools. Okay, this is where I'll show you what these are in just a minute. Number 2, keyword stuffing, talking to Google instead of talking to humans, and just general poor content. Let me show you some of these things. So here's a search for siding in Dallas. I simply typed into the box siding in Dallas, and let's see what comes up. So one of them I clicked on here was Dallas siding, lifetime warranty, 24 years experience. That sounds pretty good. Okay, and when I click on it, here's what comes up. And this is called, generally speaking, poor content. Siding and More offers quality vinyl siding replacement windows. I'm not interested in replacement windows. I don't know why they're talking about that. And soffit and fascia. I'm not sure that I know what soffit and fascia is if I'm the average guy that's searching for siding. To our customers throughout the Dallas area, exclamation point. With over 28 years of experience, Siding and More Construction Company is one of the most trusted and highly respected siding companies in Dallas. I just learned nothing. Dallas Siding and Vinyl Siding by Siding and More. I just learned nothing. We offer quality replacement windows, soffit and fascia, siding and vinyl siding in Dallas and throughout the Metroplex. I just learned nothing. From residential homes to commercial buildings, vinyl siding and replacement windows add greater value to properties throughout the Dallas Metroplex. Customized installation includes olive walls, vent cuts, and soffit for attic ventilation, covering porch ceilings, soffit, fascia, and any wood trim. I just learned nothing. We do the job right the first time. We remove all bad or rotted wood prior to installing new vinyl siding. Storm doors. You see where this is going? It doesn't tell me anything. It's poor content. So they pay, I'm going to go back, they pay to be in this spot. People click on that ad and they find this mismatched garbage haphazardly slung onto the page, and they hit the back button. And then they say, okay, well, here's one, Legacy Vinyl Siding Contractor, and they click on that. And then here's what we've got. Okay, choose Legacy Exteriors for your next vinyl window or vinyl siding project. Now, I really don't think we want to have 20% off vinyl windows, new year, new windows, 20% off vinyl windows as the major offer on the page where people were searching for siding. It doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. And here's what you need to know. I don't know if you know this. I'm sort of assuming you know something that maybe you don't know. You can tell Google exactly what page to lead people to. So if you look at this website here, they have a siding page. Let me see if I can still find this guy up. Where is this guy? Maybe I don't have it up anymore. Legacy Exteriors. Okay, I'm just going to bring this over onto the screen. This is the actual website. And this is where it brings you to. Now, here's the problem with this. A couple of problems. Problem number one is it brings me to a page that has a keyword disconnect, vinyl windows. And let me just tell you something. If you don't think this matters that much, you think, well, it says right there, siding, people will just click on it. You're freaking crazy. It's the craziest thing I ever can imagine you saying. Do you really think that somebody who's looking for siding is going to tolerate seeing all this stuff for windows and not just say to themselves, oh, well, this is not what I'm looking for? It's like walking down an aisle at the grocery store looking for bread, and you walk into the shampoo aisle and you say, oh, apparently this is not what I'm looking for, and you turn and you walk out of the shampoo aisle and you keep looking for the bread aisle, right? You don't just look, you don't say, well, let me see, maybe there's some bread interspersed with this shampoo. Of course you wouldn't do that. It's dumb, and that's what's happening here. On top of that, over here, schedule your free in-home estimate now. This is what I called a minute ago an engagement tool. And this engagement tool is attempting to get me to fill out a form, even though I don't know anything about this company. I have no reason to want to do business with this company, none whatsoever, and they're trying to hook me. This is like a bear trap. You know those metal things, and they clamp shut on your foot, and they try to kill you? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to clamp this closed on your foot and kill you. You say, well, that's overstating the problem. They're not trying to kill me. No, they are. They're just trying to, they don't want to help you. They just want to sell you. And I'm suggesting that you try to help people. Now, let's go to the siding page. I haven't done this before, so I don't know what I'm about to find. Legacy Exteriors Vinyl Siding Experts call immediately for winter pricing today. Property owners balance resilience with classic beauty. Now, I don't think this is a great website, but at least it's talking about what I was looking for, okay? You understand what I'm saying? All right, I'm going to get rid of that because it's making me angry. All right, now let's go to the next one, 24-hour roof repair. What? I'm searching for siding and it's giving me roof repair. Here's the website, Residential Roofing. And you know what? People click on this. They don't respond. This guy pays $2, $2.50, $1.50, whatever it is, depending on the day, depending on the traffic. This guy might spend $2.50. This guy puts a budget out there of $500. Here's what he does. He says, well, I'm going to spend $500 on this ad. And he puts $500 into his budget. It costs him an average of $2 per click or something like that. He gets 250 clicks and nobody calls. And then guess what he says? Well, this doesn't work. Pay-per-click doesn't work. Pay-per-click's a bunch of crap. And then we look at him and we go, no, you're just stupid, okay? I don't know any other way to say this than maybe just uninformed, ignorant maybe, instead of stupid, but to me, this is just pretty stupid because you're the one that tells people what category to appear in and what page to land on. So it is stupid. Okay, now, hey, man, I've done plenty of stupid things in my life. I've done lots of stupid things lately. But I'm telling you, this is inexcusable, okay? Then down here at the bottom, siding contractor, okay. Hardy board and wood siding experts. We paint soffits, fascias too. Call, okay. Then there's phone number, and I click on it, and here's what I find. HB over C Hatcher, whatever that is, building and construction. Okay, Hatcher Building and Construction, I guess. Hatcher Building and Construction. Since 1980, we have been the general contractor construction company of choice for many homeowners and businesses throughout Dallas, Plano, Carrollton, Frisco, as well as surrounding cities and towns. Keyword stuffing, keyword stuffing. Have they told me anything that I wanted to know? No, they haven't. We have handled virtually every type of construction and remodeling project. We're ready to take on your project. We deliver professional, consistent results. Have they even spoke about siding? No. Next, let's read the list. We handle these remodeling projects and construction projects, general home contracting, kitchen remodeling, bathroom remodeling, room additions, outdoor kitchens, and we also do commercial roofing, specializing in flat roofs. I don't see anything about siding. Now, over here, there's a little thing about siding, but here's what I want you to see. I'm going to go back. Guys, this is serious. This is real. This was put on, I Googled this morning. This wasn't something, 8 years ago, and now people are not as stupid. This is from today, okay? Today. This is what we're seeing, all right? This is not good. All right, let's talk about how to make it work. And again, I'm gonna give you sort of the 30,000-foot view on this, making it work keywords, okay? First thing you want to do is identify your target audience. Brainstorm some ideas. What are they looking for? What are some of the words? And just sit down and make a list. Okay, this is a good place to start. If you sell siding, what kinds of words can you think of? I don't know, let's try it. Let's start with siding, but then we want to think in terms of what's called long tail keywords. Now, keywords should really be thought more of like key phrases, okay, because siding is a word, but then we want to look at things like James Hardie siding. Okay, there's a keyword. Now let's think of another one. How about fiber cement siding? Great. What about siding colors? What about siding materials? What about aluminum siding? What about vinyl siding? What about seamless steel siding? What about Alcoa aluminum siding, etc.? Now, just brainstorm these. Come up with as many as you can. And think in terms of long tail. Now, here's what you're going to find. Depending on the market that you're competing in, this might be hard or it might be easy to compete. Let me give you some contrasting examples. Contrasting example number one. Met with a client that was in, oh my gosh, what was the name of that town? San Angelo, Texas. Little teeny town in the middle of nowhere. Let's put it this way. When people are trying to tell you where San Angelo is, they reference Abilene, okay? That means that San Angelo, not a very big town. So I was talking to a client that was there. They were a window company. We were talking about search engine optimization and pay-per-click. And guess what we found out? There's only 2 window companies in San Angelo, just 2. And they would come up easily. So if you used a very broad keyword for pay-per-click, like windows, replacement windows, vinyl windows, in San Angelo, Texas, your ad is going to appear because there's not hardly any competition for those keywords, okay? There's also not a lot of traffic for those keywords. But if you're in the middle of Chicago and you wanted to buy an ad for the keyword siding, it's going to be extraordinarily competitive, okay? So what I'm going to recommend that you do is if you're in a non-competitive environment, that it doesn't really matter. All of this really doesn't matter that much because it's easy to compete, okay? It's like showing up to play basketball if you're an adult against 7-year-olds. You're going to win, okay? It doesn't matter if you're that good at basketball. You're going to win just because you're a lot bigger than they are, okay? But if you show up and you're playing against a bunch of other adults, particularly some adults that are actually pretty good, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. So what I recommend you do in that situation is the same thing that you do when you are showing up to play basketball as a competent basketball playing adult, but you show up to play against others who are maybe as competent or more competent. And what I recommend you do is you specialize, okay? And you find out what you can really hone in on. And in basketball, that might be rebounding, or it might be passing, or it might be a certain type of shot. or it might be an energy guy or a hustle guy or a sharpshooter, whatever it is. You know, they say in the NBA you can survive on one elite skill. If you're a great three-point shooter and you're not that great at defense, you can still thrive in the NBA. If you're a great defender but you can't shoot, you can still thrive in the NBA, but you have to have an elite skill. And what I'm telling you here, sorry to get off on a tangent about basketball after getting off on a tangent about fishing, but they're both relevant, is you got to find somewhere that you can get a niche. And the way you do that with keywords is you find keywords that are a little bit longer-tailed, longer keywords that have fewer people competing so that you can actually show up. Now what happens is you get a smaller number of people searching, but you have a higher likelihood of showing up and getting clicks for people that are searching for those keywords, okay? So you play more of a niche role. Now, let me tell you about that. If you're in the middle of Chicago and you find a relatively niched keyword and you can dominate that keyword, because it's Chicago and there's millions of people and there's thousands of searches, you can still get good traction, good lead flow, and you can make it work for you. You understand it? Are you following what I'm saying here? On the other hand, if you're in San Angelo, it doesn't really matter. You're playing against 7-year-olds. Just do whatever you want. You're going to win, okay? There's no one else even playing the game. Most of you, realistically, are somewhere in between. You're somewhere in between. You're probably in a fairly competitive to very competitive marketplace, and this is where you really need to get into using some professional help, okay, to use a phrase that sounds kind of odd. Review your log files. Your log files are files that Google generates that shows where your current web searcher. Now you got to have Google Analytics to do this, and if you don't have Google Analytics on your site, then that's kind of a problem. But you can review where your current web visitors are coming from, and if they're coming from search, you can see what words they had searched. Okay, so just search the history of what people were doing when they came to your website, what they were searching for. Okay, enter these words into top sites like Google and Bing and stuff like that, Yahoo, and see how they do and see what kinds of things come up. Check your competitors, see what words they're using, where they're coming up. That's a good sign. And then you can also use an AdWord keyword tool. It's free. All you got to do is go to Google and type in AdWord keyword tool. It'll ask you to log in. If you don't have a Google account, it'll ask you to create one, and then it'll walk you right through the process. It's not that hard to do. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do that today for sake of time. I just want you to know that it's available. What we prefer to use is the Reach Local keyword tool. And this is a tool within Reach Local's platform that allows us to get an idea of how keywords will work based on the number of searches. And it'll also help us find keywords. So what we can do, for instance, is, I'm going to make this up right now. I probably should have prepared a more concrete example. But if I go in and I designate a geographic area of Southlake, Texas, this specific town or zip code, or however, there's various ways that you can geographically limit it, and it's easy to do. So Southlake, Texas, and I look at the words siding, fiber cement siding, and let's say vinyl siding. It'll tell me how many monthly searches are being conducted in that geographic area for those terms. So you might see for siding itself, it might be, I'm making this number up, it might be 1,300. For fiber cement siding, it might be 112. For vinyl siding, it might be 288. If you expand the geographic reach of that search from Southlake to Tarrant County, or from Tarrant County to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metropolitan Statistical Area, MSA, those numbers could dramatically increase, okay? But you can see how many searches, and it will give you suggestions for other keywords that you can use that are related, okay? So this is what I suggest you do, all right? It's pretty simple. Now I'm going to talk in a minute about Reach Local some more, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of doing it yourself versus using Monopolize Your Marketplace or some other resource, but in your case, I would recommend MYM to help you do this, okay? The next part is bidding on keywords. A lot of times people assume that if you have the highest bid, that you're going to get the best placement. So you can go in there, and in the tool within Reach Local, it'll tell you the average bid for a keyword, for this keyword in this geography is, and it'll give you a range. It'll tell you how much you need to bid. It'll be anywhere from $1.12, it might say, to $1.85. And a lot of times rookie mistakes, people will go in and they'll say, well, if the range is up to $1.85, I'll just bid $2.50 because I don't really care. I'm willing to pay $2.50 for a click if I get a good qualified person, so I'll just put $2.50. And you think, well, if I pay Google more money, then Google's going to put me higher on the pay-per-click listings. And that's probably true for a short amount of time. So what will happen is Google will put you up there, and people will click on it, and Google will say, great, I just made $2.50 instead of $1.85. I'm Google. I want to make money. That's fantastic. Awesome. But then Google will wait and see who else clicks, and another person clicks, and another person clicks, and it's going to evaluate a couple of different things. The first thing it's going to evaluate is how many people are actually clicking on that ad versus ads that are appearing below that ad. And if it sees that people are clicking on the number 2 and number 3 ad at a ratio of 3 or 4 to 1 over the top ad, Google's going to say, wait a second, I'm giving prime real estate to an ad that's not even being clicked that much. Or if it is being clicked a lot, it's going to see how long people are staying on that website and if people actually like that website. And if it finds that people click on that top-ranked website, but people don't stay on it and they come back immediately, Google draws a conclusion, which is what? Hey, people aren't finding what they want when they go to that website. It would be like your website for your ad for siding going to a roofing or a window website. And people go on to that and they say, oh, geez, this is not even what I was looking for, and they backclick. Google says, well, we don't care if you're paying $2.50 instead of $1.85. We're not going to put your ad there, and they drop it, okay? This is not what you want. This can be very frustrating. Don't assume that having the highest bid is going to get you the best placement. Not necessarily true. We use ReachLocal's tools to guide us on the bidding. It'll tell us exactly what the ranges are, and we've found that when we use those ranges, the ads show up, we get good placement, and it works, okay? Cost per click in the home improvement industry generally ranges from about 20 cents to about $2.50. Now, it can go higher, it can go lower. This is the general range, okay? Like anything else, it depends on lots of different factors, and I don't want you to look at this and say, well, that's exactly what it's going to be. I want you to, if you're interested in this, talk to Dale over in our office, and he can look up specifically your market, your situation, your keywords, and he can give you an idea of what the clicks are going to cost and what kind of budget you can set accordingly, okay? Let's talk about ad writing for a minute. Now, there's not a lot of room for creativity when it comes to these ads. You get 25 words for the headline. You get 35 words each for 2 lines of text. It does not allow superlatives. You can't say the best window company. It won't allow the word, okay? What I recommend you do is you focus in on your hot buttons, your identity, and then write the ads, okay? We use a character counting tool. It looks kind of like this. We just created one in an Excel spreadsheet, okay? And this is one we created for a company that was focusing on the hot button of installation of Windows. We install Windows Right, and you can see here it's 24 words. This red 25 means the limit is 25. So it tells me how many characters I have. It's worth it to pay a little more. It's 34. Get your Windows installed right. That's 35, and then it gives me a maximum of 35 characters for my URL that shows up. Now, the good thing is on the URL, if you're trying to link to a page that has a really long URL, you can have it show up as a changeofview.com. And if the real URL you want is / something 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 that's over 35 characters, you can make it just show up at changeofview.com, and then when people click on it, you can set it and assign it to say, no, actually go to this page with a longer URL, so they can click directly through. In other words, you're not limited to linking people to a website or web address that has 35 or fewer characters. And frequently, if you're going to pages and subpages and subpages, you're going to have URLs that are frequently longer than 35 characters. So you'll have to abbreviate them like you see here, okay? So you can see we've got different ads that we write. We install Windows Right, Windows installed right, the truth about Windows, no cutting corners, no sales pressure period. There's different ways to write ads. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail right now about how to write ads, other than to say when we do the pay-per-click advertising for you through ReachLocal, we actually write the ads for you. And what we're going to do is we're going to write multiple ads, and we're going to test them. Okay, so we just simply want to see which of these ads works the best. And guess what we always find? Some of the ads work better, some of the ads work worse. That's called testing. It's not hard to do, but it does take some time, and you do need to have multiple ads so you can see which ones work the best, okay? All right, let's talk about budget. First thing you want to do is find keywords and ads that work for you. Run them for 2 or 3 months on a modest budget. Now, a modest budget is going to differ depending on you, okay? I have some clients where $3,000 a month is a modest budget. I have some clients where $3,000 a month is a ginormous budget. So you kind of have to determine what is a modest budget. Let me give you a definition of a modest budget. A definition of a modest budget is a budget that is large enough to get a statistically relevant test, but small enough that if it does not work and perform well for you, it's not going to kill your business, okay? I would recommend the smallest budget that you start with is $500 per month, okay? $500 per month. That's generally going to give us a statistically relevant test, okay? It's enough clicks, it's enough exposure to see what works and what doesn't work, okay? But it's generally going to take a couple of months to optimize the campaign to where we find what works the best, we run it, we get the click-throughs that we want, okay? Now, once you do that, increase your budget over 2 or 3 more months, and then make sure that your numbers keep working, okay? So if you're getting a good return on investment, you do that for the first couple of months. You find something that works. You got ads and keywords and budgets that are working for you. Increase your budget for 2 or 3 more months. Make sure that your numbers still work. Make sure that your ROI is still good. And then here's what you ultimately want to do. You want to spend as much money as you can. And I mean that statement literally, okay? As much as you can should be your budget. If you find a formula that allows you to generate leads, and those leads allow you to get a 10% cost of advertising versus sale. So for every $1,000 you spend, you get $10,000 in sales, and then you increase your spend to $2,000, and it stays consistent, you get $20,000 in sales. Well, then why wouldn't you just spend $10,000 and get $100,000 in sales? It doesn't make any sense not to. Your best bet is to take traffic that exists already on the internet and to harvest it and to channel it to you so that you can get that business. Now, this brings us back to an objection that we had earlier, which is, well, why would I spend that $10,000 to get those sales when I could just have good page ranking and have those people come to me via organic search? And my question to you would be, if you had both and you saw that you were able to generate a 10-to-1, or stated otherwise, a 10% cost of advertising to sales ratio, like I just mentioned, are you okay with that? Because if you take it away, you're going to lose a lot of ability to measure that. You say, well, they're going to just go over there and they're going to click on me anyway over here on the organic search. And that might be true, and that might not be true, and it's going to be very difficult to tell. Now, one of the things that we are going to talk about now is Reach Local. And I'm going to give you some pros and some cons of using Reach Local with MYM versus using it just by yourself, okay? So first of all, the thing that we like about Reach Local is it allows us to, in a very granular way, see exactly what's happening with our spend. So if you look over here, this is an example for one of our clients. You can see this is from June 5th, 2013 to July 9th, 2013. So it's a period of, gosh, what, maybe 5 weeks or something like that? Yep, 5 weeks. And you can see here that our budget was $1,500. We spent $1,500, so this was after the fact. We spent all of the budget. They gave us 83,307 impressions on the designated keywords. They gave us 976 visits to our website. So if we do the math on that, let's see, 1,500 divided by 976 is $1.54 per visit, okay? We got 21 calls from it, 0 emails, and 27 web events. Now, let's discuss what these are and how ReachLocal knows. One of the things it shows is that we got 21 phone calls. Now, let's think about this for a minute. How would ReachLocal know that somebody called from our website? And the answer is this. ReachLocal has a unique characteristic about it, which is it creates what, I don't know exactly what they call it. What I call it is it creates a mirror image of your website. Here's what that means. When somebody clicks on your pay-per-click ad that was placed by ReachLocal, that click does not go to your website. That click goes to an exact duplicate of your website that looks exactly like your website, has the same URLs as your website, but it has one important difference, which is it takes your phone number and it replaces it with a local area code phone number that is unique and that is managed and operated by ReachLocal. Now, the reason they do this is because it allows them, number one, to track how many people dial that number, but it also allows them to actually record all of those phone calls as they come in. Now, here's what happens. I click on the next page. This shows me a day-by-day breakdown of what happened. So it shows me that on July 7th, we spent $0 and had 0 impressions. That makes sense? Let's go to July 5th. On July 5th, we spent $53.22. We got 2,900 impressions. We had a click-through rate of 0.45. We had 46 visits. Our cost per visit was $1.16, and we had 0 calls. Okay, well, that's not as many calls as we'd like, but let's go down here to July 2nd. We had 4 calls. The interesting thing is we can actually click on these calls and we can listen to them right here. So this is showing you a page where we can come in here to the phone calls and we can see here's the phone number, here's the contact information. You see here it's a private caller, William S. Russell. It shows me his address. It looks up that information if it's available. If it's not available because it's blocked or it's a private caller, it shows me at least where it's coming from, but it lets me know it's a private caller. It also shows me the length of the call. So I had a 5-minute and 51-second call, and I had an abandoned call here. You can see just by looking at the length of the call, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. And then you can go over here and you can click on this green little phone and you can listen to that call right there. This is a very interesting tool, and I'm going to tell you what we see when we use this tool. We'll have clients that come to us and they'll say, well, we ran this pay-per-click campaign and we didn't get very good results. Then when we hear that, the very first thing we do is we go in and we listen to the phone calls and we try to hear if there are any problems. And guess what we frequently find? We frequently find that there were problems, phone calls that weren't handled properly, that weren't answered the right way. Sometimes we find that they just weren't good qualified prospects, and that's okay, that's part of the game. But frequently we find that the calls were legitimate, but they were not handled properly. So it gives us, and more specifically you, a chance to course correct and find out if there's problems and make something happen to change those, okay? So the reporting is good. Now, let me tell you how this works from a financial standpoint. When you do business with ReachLocal, ReachLocal is going to charge you a percent of the money you give them as a management fee for you to use their platform, their keyword tools, their bidding tools, and to optimize it. Some people don't like that. The percent, by the way, is about 22%, all right? So when you give them $1,000, they're going to spend about $780 actually on advertising, and they're going to take the remaining dollars, the $220, and it's going to be paid to them as their fee for having this technology and these services available to you, okay? If you don't like that, you need to understand something, which is you're going to pay somebody to manage this for you, no matter who it is or how you do it, whether you use technology and pay technology via a percentage like I just mentioned, or if you hire an employee to do it for you. I mean, we've seen companies that are very large. The largest client that I've had in terms of pay-per-click spent as much as $90,000 a month on pay-per-click advertising, and it took a full-time employee to manage all that, which is fine. No, I'm not saying that's right, wrong, good, or bad. I'm just saying there's a cost involved, no matter how you do it, okay? So just realize that. Now, if you go to Reach Local directly, what they're going to do is they're going to charge you the 22%, and they're going to assign you an account manager. And that account manager is going to be your point of contact to work with you to write ads, well, they're actually not going to work with you to write ads. They're going to just take the ads that you give them. They're going to place the ads. They're going to do the bidding. They're going to be your point of contact to help you manage it. And they pay that person a certain amount of the percentage that comes out of that 22%. On the other hand, Monopolize Your Marketplace is a Reach Local authorized reseller. What that means is they pay us a percentage of that percentage. So in other words, if they're getting 22%, instead of paying part of that to their customer service rep, they pay it to us. We make it as a commission. In full disclosure, we're not trying to hide anything. We make 12%. So if you pay $1,000, 12% of that, $120, comes to Monopolize Your Marketplace. Now, the money that you spend is spent directly with Reach Local. We never touch the money. We take your credit card information, we plug it into the Reach Local system. It shows up on your credit card bill as Reach Local. But sometimes people say, well, I'll just go to Reach Local because it'll be cheaper, and I don't want Monopolize Your Marketplace making that 12%. That seems like a ripoff. Why would I pay you guys to do something that I could do for cheaper with them? First of all, it's not cheaper with them. It's the same percentage that they're spending on the ads regardless. It's just the money is either coming to us or it's coming to their customer service rep. Now, here's what I've heard through multiple home improvement contractors over the years, is that when they use Reach Local directly, the problem that they run into is high turnover of the customer service reps. They tend to hire low-dollar people that tend to be young and tend to turn over very quickly. So during the course of a year or a 2-year relationship, you might have 2 or 3 or 4 different reps that are handling your account. Meanwhile, those same reps are handling dozens and dozens of other accounts, and the amount of attention that you get is very small, and the learning curve when they come back to your account is potentially problematic. With Monopolize Your Marketplace, we have one person that manages, Dale Goree. He's been our guy that manages this stuff since the beginning. He manages all the accounts we have. I don't know how long Dale's actually been with Monopolize Your Marketplace now, but it's been, what is it, Dale? At least 7, 8, 9 years. It's been a long time, and I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So you get one single point of contact, so you don't have to worry about that kind of turnover. It costs the same amount of money. Now, here's my strong recommendation. Unless you're the kind of person that really wants to learn this stuff and get in there and get down and dirty with Google AdWords, which if you are that person, fantastic. Go learn it from somebody who can teach it to you at the level of intricacy. Generally, we're talking about 2- and 3-day courses that are held to teach all of the ins and outs of that, far outside of the scope of what we train here at Monopolize Your Marketplace. If you don't want to go that route, then I do strongly recommend Reach Local. The reason is we've researched lots of different platforms that do the similar kind of thing, and we like Reach Local best. We find it to be the easiest to use. We find it to be the most comprehensive, the easiest to test, and it gives us the best results, okay? If you go that route, you've got 2 choices. You can either do it yourself or you can have Monopolize Your Marketplace manage it for you. The reason that we offer bundled services, website building, website content creation, mobile websites, search engine optimization, pay-per-click management, is because it's a single point of contact, and it just makes it easier for you. So we would like the opportunity to help you with that if it makes sense. If you'd like to talk to us about it, just give our office a call and talk to Dale Goree. If you've already had a relationship with Dale through other projects, Contractor Standards Guide or something like that, just reach out to Dale directly. You've got his information. Otherwise, just call us or email us at our office. You can talk to Judy. She'll put you in touch with the right people, and we'd love to help you out. That's all I have for you today on this topic. I will take a minute and take any questions. If anybody would like to type a question into the question thingy-mabobber, I'd be happy to take that now. Oh, Dale says he's been with me for eight years now in July, so 7.5. I have a question here that says, don't long tail keywords cost less than short tail or broad keywords? And the answer is yes, they do. And the reason they do is because there's fewer people trying to get to them typically. So if you just take the word siding, there's a lot of people competing for that word, so it drives the price up. If you go to fiber cement siding relative strengths, which is 5 words and very few people are competing for that word, it's supply and demand. So it's got less people competing for it, so the bidding price goes down, okay? A lot of people ask, how many products can you advertise and focus on? This is actually Dale telling me this. This is a common question he gets. How many products can you advertise and focus on? And the answer is you can do up to 6 different products at once, okay? Up to 6 with this platform that we utilize. A question, negative keywords. I don't want to get into that. Negative keywords are simply keywords that you want to avoid. So words that you know people are searching for but you're not interested in would be a negative keyword. So for instance, in Windows, you would probably use a negative keyword of Microsoft and Vista and 7 and 8, things that are not related to actual Windows, just to give you an idea. Also, if you don't want to repair Windows, then you could use a negative keyword of repair and other related words to keep people from spending your money looking for something you don't actually do. So I guess it was worth 30 seconds. There you go, Brett. Let's see, next question. You mentioned using pay-per-click keywords to help with SEO. If we use you for pay-per-click, will you share keywords information as you suggested? Absolutely. Not a problem at all. It only makes sense. Okay. Any other questions? Thanks for those questions, by the way. Anything else? Okay. We will consider that a wrap then. Appreciate you spending some time with me today. Good topic, interesting stuff, and we'll be back with you, I think, in 2 weeks. We're going to take next week off with spring break. I'll be traveling to Las Vegas, as usual, with my sons to watch a basketball tournament, as is our family tradition. So hopefully we'll have fun. Maybe you'll have some fun next week, too. Who knows? You'll probably be working because your spring break probably isn't next week. But whatever. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. And until then, happy marketing. See ya. Bye now.